The previous night passed in unusual quietness. After dinner, BK spent some time by the beach before returning to his room. By 10 o'clock, the lights were out. At 6:30 the following morning, he left for Cheruvunu. Less than 20 kilometers away, the ancient temple of Sri Annapurneshwari had stood there long before the question that had brought him from Kolkata. Passing through the temple entrance, BK walked to the offerings counter and requested a Pushpanjali in the name of Angadan under the Revati birth star. After receiving the offering check, he removed his shirt and entered the sanctum sanctorum in keeping with its customs. His prayers began before Lord Krishna. The priest completed the Pushpanjali and returned with the prasadam, sandal paste and flowers. BK received them with quiet reverence before walking towards the sanctum of Goddess Annapurneshwari. For a few moments, he remained before the deity without moving. Only after completing his prayers did he begin the pradakshina around the temple. Angad's recollections, Nanu Ashan, the unfinished murals, slowly returned to him. As he reached the western side of the temple, his steps slowed. The mural stood before him. Time had weathered its surface without diminishing its presence. The color had softened with age, yet the image retained a clarity that held his attention. This was the mural Angad had carried in his memory all these years. BK remained there for a while, studying every unfinished detail. Only then did he continue his walk. The committee office had not yet opened. With time to spare, BK walked to a nearby tea shop. Breakfast was simple, upma and tea. When he returned, only one person was waiting in the office, Dineshan, the temple manager. Without revealing his identity, BK introduced himself as a visitor from Delhi interested in the temple murals. The murals, Dineshan said, had been painted by Nanu Ashan, whose family had left the village many years earlier. BK asked whether the old customs were still observed. Dineshan replied that the tradition continued to guide temple life. The conversation changed the moment BK mentioned one name, Pitambaran. Surprised that a visitor from Delhi knew so many people connected with the village, Dineshan suggested that only Mr. Puduwal could answer the questions BK had come seeking. Dineshan telephoned Puduwal. When asked his name, BK introduced himself as Bhaskar Krishna Bhattaderi Pad. BK requested that everyone simply call him Bhaskaran. The invitation to Mr. Puduwal's home was readily accepted. They drove to the ancestral house. Mr. Puduwal welcomed him with unaffected warmth. Sudha, his wife, served chilled buttermilk flavored with ginger, bird's eye chili, curry leaves and lemongrass. BK accepted it with quiet appreciation. When BK explained that his interest lay in the temple murals, Mr. Puduwal turned towards his elder sister Devaki. Age had left its mark upon her appearance, not upon her memory. She began recounting the history of Nanu Ashan, his wife and the Koloth princess. According to her, the meaning of those events had always remained inseparable from the philosophy behind the murals. She explained that no image of the goddess was ever meant to be fully completed. Every artist deliberately left a final portion unfinished. BK listened. More than the account itself, he found himself observing Devaki. The clarity with which she recalled events from another generation surprised him. Age had not dimmed either her memory or the quiet conviction with which she carried those memories. She narrated how the princess completed the unfinished image with a final dot of kumkum and how the village remembered everything that followed. She spoke of Ashan's wife, the temple pond, the two deaths, and later Ashan's own death before the annual festival. Only after a long silence did BK ask about Ashan's son. Devaki replied that he had left the village long ago. Beyond that, certainty ended. The rest belonged to memory, belief, and time. Sudha quietly served lunch. Rice, sambar, ripe mango curry, lemon pickle, tomato chutney, and curds. BK accepted the meal with the same simplicity that had marked his visit from the beginning. When it was time to leave, Devaki held BK's hand and asked him to return one day with his family. BK placed 2000 rupees in her hands and requested that it be accepted as an offering to Goddess Lakshmi. Devaki blessed him with the affection of a mother. Outside, BK called Dineshan. As he prepared to leave, he handed Dineshan his visiting card. Dineshan looked at the name, Bhaskara Krishna Bhattatiri Pad. Then the designation, Inspector General of Police, Head, Special Investigation Bureau, Ministry of Home Affairs, New Delhi. He continued looking at the card. The man who had quietly stood in the temple queue, who had eaten breakfast at the village tea shop, who had listened to Devaki for hours without revealing his identity, had come with a purpose. The color slowly drained from Dineshan's face. His knees gave way. As BK's taxi disappeared down the village road, Dineshan had fainted in shock.
Where stories begin.